Hello and welcome to my channel, Bow and Arrow Tarot. Today we're going to get right into the January love reading for the sign of Pisces. This is the last of the January love readings. I made it through to the final sign, you guys. I'm going to be doing full moon lunar readings this month also. Next week is the full moon. So let's get right into it, Pisces. This is going to be a general look into your love life. And it's just going to be one scenario or one sort of story, so it may or may not resonate for what you're going through. Of course, one reading can't be for all Pisces. So I just hope that this reading is for most of the people in my collective in some way or another. You can take a portion of the reading. And of course, you got to check your other placements, you know, so the sun, moon, rising, Venus, Mars energy. Check out what placements you have there for your other readings. Hermit. High Priestess, wow. Knight of Cups. Eight of Pentacles. Again, cross watchers, you've seen the Eight of Pentacles throughout my readings this month. Moon. Oh my goodness. Jeez. Pisces. The Tower. And a Six of Swords. Six of Cups, Two of Swords, a decision. Wow. Bottom of the deck is Page of Swords. So, excuse the plane in the background flying through. Jeez. Wow. Pisces, I mean, what can I say? You have 5 very strong major arcana cards in this reading. Moon, Hermit, High Priestess, the Devil, and the Tower. All right, let's get right into it. Pisces, you have been going through a profound emotional and spiritual sort of journey recently. And you have been in your hermit when it comes to love. You just have not been sort of available. Simply not emotionally available, period. You haven't been interested. You absolutely, this is for a Pisces who may have even been living sort of a very pious life, you know, just not a lot of indulgences. This is a really deep sort of hermited path. Sometimes the hermit can come up and the energy, you know, it all depends on the scenario, but this is a true hermited energy, Pisces. You haven't been out. You work only on your craft. Eight of Pentacles down here in the back of your mind. All you do is master your craft. You stay in. I wouldn't even be surprised if this is for a Pisces who has been living away from society, perhaps out in nature for quite some time. Maybe, you know, not even so much away from society, but in a very quiet area, an area where you don't have a lot of like close-knit neighbors. I wouldn't even be surprised like if your physical environment is absolutely hermited and yet you're able to work on your craft. It could be that you're a handcrafter some way, you know, if you're a woodworker or a carver, if you're an artist of some kind, it makes perfect sense that you could still be in your hermit energy and still carrying on your work. Your work is still there, see, with this Eight of Pentacles, and you're continuing on with it in a very sort of disciplined way. You covered this month with the High Priestess, and the High Priestess is all about intuition, but for you, you are really sort of doing that sort of solitary work, right? This is not a case of going to a bunch of workshops and going to a bunch of people who, you know, teach you how to meditate and doing all of the things that society, because now, you know, esoterica has become extremely mainstream, right? And so a lot of people go out and they buy their understanding or enlightenment, you know, through sort of these activities that are supposed to jumpstart you. But you have been walking sort of the true sort of path, and this is what the High Priestess talks about. She guards the secrets. She guards the secrets to understanding life, and the secret is there is no secret. You have to just live it. And so for you, I would say that, yeah, you may indeed be living away from others. You may indeed be living in an area where you're more able to sort of be alone with your thoughts, to experience your life without the interruption of others. And you are absolutely honing that true intuitional ability of yours. Absolutely. And the time that you've put into it as well, you've absolutely, this is for a Pisces who understands that it takes time to learn things. It takes time to walk the path. So many people want to be suddenly, you know, a few months into doing some readings, or a few months into doing some workshops, or a few months into seemingly doing shadow work. It seems as though they somehow, you know, think that they've reached a stage. You've been working very long term, methodically towards your spiritual attainment. You haven't cut any corners. This has been a very difficult road, but it has been a very solitary road, and you have really sort of gotten in touch with your side, your intuitional side, and also your self-confidence. You've been building your self-confidence very, very strongly. These are the kind of building blocks that that last, right? It's really strong. I don't know what else to tell you. Knight of Cups and Eight of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. At the bottom of your, your reading, which is your back of your mind and what's in your focus. Right now, your focus is Knight of Cups. So there is indeed a feeling of wanting to move forward with your understanding of your emotions. The Knight of Cups a lot of times talks about wanting to hand your cup of love to someone, but it can also talk about the Knight really sort of beginning to go a little bit deeper in his feelings, at least beginning to skim the surface of his feelings, you know. Whereas the Page is much more sort of just overcoming the initial fear of feeling, you know, or getting over things like jealousy and things like that, and envy. But the Knight of Cups, we talk about taking the next step of really getting to understand who we are and our feelings and what we desire in a love connection, what we need and what we're willing to give. And all of this is kind of like that's the learning curve for the Knight of Cups. And he does that by engaging with different people, but a lot of times he's uncommitted because he's only just now really getting to know himself. So of course he's not very committed. And so he can tend to move from different, from relationship to another relationship. You know, it doesn't necessarily stay long, but that's because he's going through a period of really learning who he is and just beginning to sort of dip deeper into the water. You can see that the card itself is only like this little stream of water. So there's not a lot of feelings available to him just yet, you know, because he just simply hasn't had the time, or perhaps he hasn't done the work, but he's on that path now. In the back of your mind, it's all about the work and the mastery of your craft. Like I said, I really wouldn't be surprised if this is for a Pisces who does some kind of craftsmanship, you know, as part of their work. Whether they make things, you know, whether you make things out of whatever materials, right, in the material world, or whether you make music, or whether you create books or writing, whatever it is, it's I wouldn't be surprised if this is for a Pisces whose craft requires mastery and is like a physical form of creative expression in some way, right? So that could be woodworking, and like I said, metalworking. I don't feel that this is necessarily a Pisces who's like an accountant, you know what I mean, or a salesperson or something like this, which are fine careers, you know. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that this feels like somebody who does things with their hands, who creates things with their hands in some way, or you know, creates objects, you know, manifestations of their creative energy sort of in the material world. So they make things and they bring things to life. And it can also be a musician who brings music to life. But whatever the craft is, you're working on it. You're very, very busy at it. And I think this month you are just beginning to sort of open your up to a love connection. You come through a period of testing. And it could be that there was a love connection before, that something happened and you needed to go away and get yourself together. Because you come into January with a feeling of still not really knowing what the next step is, right? You've been doing a lot of shadow work, and this is for this month as well. So even this month, you're carrying on this sort of hermited feeling. You're not ready to sort of get out and about. Although you're thinking about it here, you're still remaining very much in your hermit energy this month. And you're really sort of trying to hone that intuition. But your intuitive ability, you're connected to it. And I think it is kind of beginning to tell you something about your love life, or your, at least your social life, and getting out more. But you enter this month with very much not knowing. Right, the moon comes in, and so you enter it with a feeling of being tested, perhaps not really getting all of the information. You feel something, certainly with the High Priestess, you feel like you need to follow your gut this month about love, right? About perhaps opening up to love, about perhaps beginning to get out there and sort of seek out someone that you can exchange your cup of love with. But there's still this feeling of not knowing how it's going to turn out, or not knowing what's going to happen. This feels like a reading for a Pisces who before was perhaps in relationships in the past that just didn't work out, and you felt like it was very much perhaps your fault, or perhaps it was a lot of your doing in terms of maybe picking that person or being with the wrong person. And so you've really cut yourself away from interconnecting with people, and you've kind of taken on this path of the hermit, but yet now you're kind of ready to sort of open up to a love connection. You round your month off with devil energy, and that's another sort of test, I think, for you this month, because devil energy is about being really, really creative, right? Sex and passions are what fuel our creativity, which is why it is this card for Capricorn. Hermit is the card for Virgo. Moon is the card for you. It's your card, Pisces, right? So you're showing up, Virgo showed up Capricorn, but I'm not going to try to say that this is what you might be dealing with, because that's nonsense. We don't know the people's natal charts of who you're dealing with, and, you know, somebody could have a sun in Libra and their Mars may be in Virgo, you know, so we don't know that. This is really about the essence of the cards, but devil energy is associated with a high level of creativity. It's also associated with codependency and addictions, when your creative juices or your creative expression has been sort of stifled or blocked off. So this feels to me like for a Pisces who maybe you were in a relationship before, right? And it was really detrimental to who you were. You know, it may have been a relationship perhaps that really affected you and affected your ability to be creative, right? I mean, because this devil is coming back into you this month, and it feels like he's been there before. And there's this feeling of not trusting yourself, not really knowing what's going to happen next. And it feels to me very much like, Pisces, you purposely went into your hermited mode, because the last time, maybe even years ago, it doesn't mean that it has to be that recent, because I think you've been in your hermit for quite some time. But you know, a while back in the last relationship, you know, the devastation of it, you know, the fallout, it sort of devastated who you were as a person, I think. And it may have even devastated your ability to be creative. You may have come out of that relationship facing certain addictions because of that nature. You know, if you're a very creative person, you were with somebody who really cut that off and tried to steer you down the wrong path, it could easily be that you were involved with addictions and codependency. You know, that's what devil energy is all about when it's sort of negative, you know, when it has been sort of squeezed or blocked or stifled in some way, then it comes out in a very dark and negative way. And this is when we see toxic relationships and, you know, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, shopping addiction, whatever addiction you have, you know, being a slave to your addictions, to instant gratification, because all your other avenues of creativity have been blocked off, right? And so it feels like this is something that you kind of came away from, right? And so you went into your hermit. You kind of been in there now. But the High Priestess is there, and she's really, I think, in a lot of ways this month, she's telling you what the next step is. She's letting you know it's time now, you know, for you to sort of come out and meet the world a bit. You know, you feel a desire to be with someone. I think you're quite lonely, in fact, you know, because you've been now working so long away. But it scares you with the moon, right? It just, it scares you to let anybody in, because you could go right back to this devil energy. The attitude that you come into this month with, and what greets you in terms of love, is Tower. So you come into this month with a Tower moment on top of all of this. You know, to have four major arcana like this in the center of a Celtic spread is really strong and powerful. It really feels like for a lot of you Pisces, this is kind of a life lesson time. You know, like one of these moments in your life you're never really going to forget. You know, we have very specific moments in our life. Sometimes there's only one, sometimes there's maybe two or three. But this feels like one of these moments, you know. And the Tower moment comes in this month. And you're met with a Six of Swords. So I have a feeling that there is going to be some kind of physical movement that is involved, like a desire to perhaps begin to move towards people who are like-minded than you know, like-minded as you are. A feeling of wanting to, what the few like the connections that you do have that you love, to protect them and sort of take them with you. Six of Swords can also be sort of ferrying away loved ones in a lot of ways and protecting, you know, the connection you have to people you feel a responsibility to, and to make sure that they are also in a harmonious environment along with you. It can indicate moving as well. Excuse me, I have to take a sip of my iced coffee. Keep me going. So the Tower moment comes in for you this month. But it's funny, you're resonating with the Tower moment, right? In this position, this is the energy or the attitude that you have towards love this month. And so it's not even so much that an event is coming into you, but you are the event, right? It's your choice now. You're the event. Like you are your own Tower moment, in the sense that you are choosing now to face this sort of testing phase kind of head on. You're choosing to open up for love. You're choosing to follow your intuition, which maybe before you weren't able to do because maybe you hadn't developed it enough to trust it. Or perhaps before, when you listened to your gut, it wasn't really your intuition. It was like wishful thinking and it never works out. In any case, you've reached this. There's a lesson with the High Priestess, and that is a very personal lesson. And it's secret. You know, we call the High Priestess the keeper of secrets. You know, when she has the Torah on her lap, the Torah is meant to be a book that is encoded, right? And that keeps the secrets, you know, of finding yourself within God. And so this is a very personal journey, and it's not something anyone can tell you, right? You have to just go through the journey to understand what she's trying to impart to you. And so this is a high level of sort of spiritual awareness and intention, focus, and understanding. So this kind of attitude that you're coming into the month with is like that you're applying all of this, right? You're really going through a lot. So it's almost like you are embodying your own Tower moment, changing your life in ways that perhaps you were not able to ever change it before. Could very much be a feeling of being, you know, making the hard decisions or taking sort of the risks right now, even though the moon can be quite frightening, to sort of go towards some place that is harmonious, where you're not too far to one end or the other, right? Because 6 is the number for harmony. And although hermit energy is important, it is an extreme energy because it's an energy where you are alone, you are solitary. And it's necessary for a lesson, right? But ultimately, the next card after the Hermit is the Wheel of Fortune. So it's like once we learn that lesson, it's time to break out and take the opportunities life has for us once the work has been done. And so in a lot of ways, you are really sort of busting out of your shell this month. Your desires to have a love connection with 6 of Cups. You know, you desire a soulmate connection. You don't have the doubt or the self-esteem issues you had before. You're really fighting against any kind of anxiety with the Page of Swords. The Page of Swords comes in and cuts away sort of mental obstacles, right? Where the Knight of Swords cuts away sort of obstacles in communication with others. The Page of Swords talks about cutting away any sort of like negative feelings or thoughts. Not feelings so much, but negative thinking, right? Because swords are always about communication and the mind. So it's the negative thinking that we kind of sometimes exhibit in our own lives, or the negativity that other people sort of try to communicate to us. The Page of Swords is all about keeping that shit at bay, because they know how devastating that kind of fear can be, right? So he's being very strong about his commitment. And so you're being very, very strong. You know, you've been on your own for some time now, Pisces, but it's like you are meeting things head on. You understand that there's going to be a level of testing, but I think you feel confident about it. And I feel confident for you because this is a very strong reading for you, sort of taking control of your life after a period of being sort of checked out of it and doing a lot of self-work, a lot of internal work, a lot of spiritual work and emotional healing, you know. But you're ready for a love connection now. And it's interesting because, like I said before, this could be a love connection that happened before, because with Six of Cups, we talk about a friendship. We talk about a soulmate connection that has been around for a while, an old connection, you know. And it's, you know, a connection that's taken time to develop. It generally doesn't indicate a brand new connection, right? This is sort of friends that we've had a long time, that maybe and the tenderness that comes with it, right? The enjoyment of being with people that we are friends with and that we have been friends with. But when we talk about a romantic connection, it generally indicates a friendship, a long-term friendship, or an old flame that is now developed into a new flame. And of course, you round off with Two of Swords, which is a feeling of having to make a decision now. And so I'm not surprised that Six of Cups has come out, because it may indeed indicate a relationship that up until now was a friendship that is coming back, and you're perhaps having to make a choice. But in some way or another, there's a choice now that you feel you have to make for some reason by the end of the month. Empress energy is your clarifier there. Justice. The Princess of Cups. And the Seven of Pentacles. So Seven of Pentacles definitely talks about sort of reevaluating your goals. Now, I think for a long time your goal was just to remain spiritual and alone, but I think you're really sort of ready to come out of that. Star energy is at the bottom of the deck. So, of course, here we're talking about really manifesting our wishes. And star energy talks about constantly fertilizing that and also checking in with ourselves. Because sometimes we're on the road to a particular attainment of a wish, right? And along the way, what we truly desire changes, but we haven't done that check-in. You know, we haven't checked in with ourselves and say, hang on a second, am I still, is the goal I'm after, is it still the wish I have for myself? Because the journey always changes us. And so a lot of times when people do reach the end, they're not satisfied because along the way they haven't done what the star talks about, which is always sort of pouring your energies in what you truly want then and there. Not consistently sort of going after the one goal, which was maybe your goal 20 years ago, but it's not your goal now. So Star talks about always, like, you know, using your heart, your energy, your love, and your focus, your mental awareness, because the star is associated with Aquarius energy. So we're talking about the mental acuity and sort of really always thinking about what do we truly wish for our lives and keeping up with that development of it, right? Keeping up with the new stages of what we want to be and how we evolve. Because then as we evolve throughout life, our desires evolve, right? And so we have to stay with that in a way to sort of continually keep fertilizing it. Empress has come in over the Knight of Cups. So you desire to be receptive and to give your love to someone. You desire to have an environment that reflects how you feel on the inside. And the Empress is all about a creative environment. She's also about desiring children and wanting to sort of progress into motherhood sometimes. She can indicate that. She can indicate just a desire to be connected with someone in a very receptive way and in a loving way. Different than the Queen of Cups, but still in a very creative way. And so I think this is what's happening for you. This could be for a Pisces who has been alone for quite some time and is now really feeling the desire to sort of be with someone, to start a family perhaps even, you know, because now you've gone through sort of enough solitary walking. So this month you're still on your path, but you're beginning to open up. In the back of your mind, balance is coming in overwork. So for some of you, you may have been overworking, and so it's time to balance that and to readjust it. It's interesting because in the Thoth deck, the Libra card for Libra, which is generally called Justice, is called adjustment. It, instead of being 11, it's the 8 in the Thoth deck. And so it really represents also putting boundaries in place to help rebalance yourself, to help rebalance your life. And perhaps for some of you, certainly you've been putting a lot into your career, but now it's time to put energy into sort of opening up and making room to love someone, making room for someone else in this life, which has been very solitary for a while. Princess of Cups comes out over that moon. And what I said earlier, pages are always about sort of overcoming fear in an area, right? And so Princess of Cups is about overcoming fear in relationships. So here we have you sort of also This is part of like sort of this feeling of being tested right now, being, overcoming the fear of opening up, overcoming the fear of possibly becoming jealous or envious or becoming sort of, being a slave to emotions because all of this is really new and you're afraid you're going to be reacting or maybe hurt. This is all part of that moon energy in terms of, it's a test. And so you don't have all the answers. It can be scary somewhat, but yet it's excellent that the Princess of Cups shows up, because she, being the same as the Page of Cups, talks all about overcoming that fear, that initial fear, and taking a step towards a love connection, right? In a traditional deck, the Page of Cups is the one who's handing that little cup with the fish in it, and they just want to have a little bit of a connection, and they are overcoming sort of that initial trepidation to reach out, and this is what this is very much about. And that's part of your sort of test this month. The Devil energy is covered with Seven of Pentacles. And so, again, you're going to be tested towards the end of the month in terms of your creativity and the path that you're on. Because Seven of Pentacles talks about, just checking in to see if you really are on the path towards what you want, or if the rewards you've begun to receive are what you really want. Or is it like, do you feel a failure in some way? Do you feel like you need to step up, and put more work into certain areas of your life? Especially with Seven of Discs, we talk about, perhaps feeling like the rewards that are coming in, or what you sort of, the fruit of your labor is not enough, right? It's not satisfactory. You feel it perhaps. Sometimes it can feel a little bit like a failure. Sometimes it can feel like, just re-examining what it is you truly desire to begin with, and are you putting enough work in? Right? And so this comes in over Devil energy. And I think this is in essence just this feeling of remembering to sort of stay on top of your creative goals, because they're so locked in with this sort of love connection, or this ability to sort of have a love connection. Can also be that the time you put into, right, a connection, sometimes, if we are not sort of succeeding as much as we'd like to be succeeding in our careers or our business, and we've put all our energy into it, it's like less is more. Like if you put more energy into opening up for a possibility of a love connection, you even out more. Like with this adjustment, you kind of balance out more. And then the work that you put into your creative endeavors or your career is more authentic. It packs a bigger punch, it isn't futile, or doesn't bring back sort of rewards or fruits of your labor that are unsatisfactory. It brings back satisfaction. And so I think this is a big part of sort of balancing out for a Pisces out there who really hasn't had a lot of love in their life for quite some time. And of course, Two of Swords talks about finding a balance. And so when you feel like you have to choose between your creative endeavors and a new love connection, because maybe in the past something differently happened, this time around it's all about finding balance. And that's what's going to really lead you to the kind of connection that you want with someone, Certainly the kind of love connection that is is worth it, right? And allows you to sort of be as creative as you'd like to be, right? Wow, this is a really nice reading for you, Pisces. What can I say? This is definitely for Pisces, I think, who's an artist who's been living a very solitary life, a very hermited life, but now it's time to just really come out and reach for your lover, reach for the type of relationship that you've been wanting, reach for companionship. I think you also miss companionship, and you miss being nurturing and loving to someone. And don't forget that when you get this feeling of having to choose between your art or your craft and this connection, right? Remember that balance, it's all about finding a balance, right? Or else you're going to teeter back to sort of hermiting yourself away and being working, or being in a relationship that sort of keeps you from your creative impulses, and then you end up in sort of like really difficult toxic areas, and you have to pull yourself back again and go back to the hermit, so it feels like that, and this is the month, I think, where you kind of learn this lesson of sort of finding that balance for yourself. All right, Pisces, this is your reading for January. And again, another long one. You and Scorpio had long readings. I do hope you enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe, and share if you did. Check out your other readings, which are linked at the top of the description below. And leave me a comment if you'd like. I love reading all the comments and replying to them. But for right now, Pisces, have a wonderful January. And I will see you middle of the month for the mid-month love check-in. Bye-bye now.